The much anticipated Cowboy Carter, the Act 2 from Beyonce's Renaissance, which came out a couple of years ago, landed on March the 29th, and I have some thoughts. Let's talk about it. Hello, my name is Diamond, aka Lady Leo. I am a lover of all things nail polish, TV shows, makeup, movies, music, all sorts of things. My hope is that you come to my channel, find something that you like, and hit the subscribe button because I would love to have you. I have talked about music a little bit on my channel, really just from the two concert films that I saw last year. So that would be the Eras Tour and then Beyonce's Renaissance, respectively. So I saw both of those, and I'm not opposed to talking about music or albums from artists on my channel, but I'm not like a music producer or a vocal coach. I do really love music, but this is coming from someone, I'm not an expert, you know what I'm saying? But with Cowboy Carter, I did kind of want to talk about it. I really liked this album, and after the Super Bowl and Beyonce dropped those two songs, which was Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages, I was really excited for Act 2. You know, to be fair, I don't really consume music like I do in terms of like new artists, so I almost never realize when an artist is launching a new album unless I see it on social media or something like that. So I was really happy to hear her launch these, and I think we all assumed it was a country album based on Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. I don't remember if Beyonce ever explicitly said that it was a country album, but definitely those two songs are they feel very country to me. I do listen to a lot of different types of music, country included, but I wouldn't say that I'm someone who's like a die-hard country fan. So I guess I don't really know what makes something country as opposed to something else. When I think of country, I think of different types of instruments. Like I hear a lot of guitars and maybe some banjo, formed in a specific way. I think of stories, so like songs that have some really deep stories. That's kind of what I think about when I think of country. And then a lot of times when I listen to country music, a lot of people have a very kind of specific country accent that they sing with. So that kind of reminds me of country too. So that is my limited understanding of what country is. That being said, I really did like both Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. I like that she launched those two because they're two different songs in terms of tempo. You have Texas Hold'em, which was definitely the one that's a lot more commercially popular. It's very upbeat, it's a very fun song. But then you have 16 Carriages, which is definitely the song that I like the most between the two of them, because I feel like that one's more of like a personal song, like an emotional song. But I did like both of them. So when she said she was launching Act 2, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it on my calendar, because again, I never really pay attention when artists launch new music unless I hear it somewhere. So what I wanted to do, which I didn't do for Renaissance, is I wanted to listen to this album a few times. I wanted to like genuinely listen to the album and really give it a chance to like listen a few times, have myself sit with it before I talked about it. So it's been out for a minute and I've been listening to it on repeat for a while, because I tend to feel like sometimes an album has to grow on you. It really depends on the album or the artist. Sometimes there's things about an album that I like immediately, and sometimes I just don't like the album at all. When it comes to Renaissance, I only really listened to Renaissance a few months ago, and it was after I watched the Renaissance film, because the first time I listened to the album, I didn't vibe with it immediately, but I only listened to it like once. And what I tend to do when I listen to an album is, if there's a song that I vibe with immediately, I'll listen to it, let the whole thing play. But if I don't like the song within like the first 20 seconds, I'll change the dial, which I know is a very bad habit. But I am being realistic when I say that. So when I went back and I listened to Renaissance, I let the whole album play several times. And I really ended up loving that album. That's actually one of my favorite Beyonce albums. My absolute favorite is her self-titled album that she did a few years ago. But anyway, so when Cowboy Carter came out, I wanted to make it a point of genuinely listening to the album in the set list order that she has. So it has 27 tracks, although I would say there's some things in there that I would consider like interludes, intermissions. It was a really big thing back in the 90s where people would have certain things that were not tracks, and they would do a couple of them per album. So that's kind of like a callback to the 90s from my vantage point. So taking those things out, because they're not actual songs, I think there's like 4 of those. So there's really like 24 legit songs on the album. Before I get into like my favorite songs, the one I don't love that much, I can only describe this as a Beyonce album. And to me, as she's kind of gotten later in her career, I think her sound pulls from a lot of different things, right? Like in the beginning, I think she was very like pop R&B. But as she's grown musically and expanded herself, I think her music's done the same. So she pulls from lots of different categories and lots of different influences. So when I think of this album, it is a country influenced Beyonce album. So there's elements in there that I definitely hear that sound to me like country, but there's other elements that are soul, that are gospel, R&B, rap, hip hop. So there's so many different things going on in this album. So when I say it's a Beyonce album, there's no other way to describe it. It's an album that sounds like Beyonce, but it just sounds like it has a very distinct theme, and that's country, but it's still like, I'm gonna put my twang on it, which only Beyonce can do. And I think this is a really fun album. There's a lot of tracks in here that I did vibe with immediately. So I really loved 16 Characters and Texas Hold'em. So of the rest of the tracks on the album that I just loved on my first listen, that would be Protector, Jolene, Just for Fun, Levi's Jeans. What's the last one? Oh, and Riverdance. How could I forget Riverdance? So those, like the first time that I listened to the album, I loved them. And between all of that, my favorite song on the albums is definitely Levi's Jeans. There's something about that song, and then Post Malone being on the song. Oh my God, I forgot Most Wanted. Most Wanted's in that list too. I'm so sorry, I had to forget that. Sorry, Most Wanted's in my list of my favorites too. But Levi's Jeans is just my favorite song. There's something about like the song and like the combination of Post Malone, and there's like a verse that Beyonce does like after the Post Malone verse that I just friggin' love that song. I play it on repeat all the time. It's my favorite. And then Most Wanted is a really, really good song. Who knew that we needed a duet with Miley Cyrus? You never know. And I think their voices are so different, but they sound so good together. I love, love, love Most Wanted. But yeah, all of those songs that I mentioned are definitely ones that I love. I loved upon first listening, and like as I listen to them more, they're still my favorites. Now there's a group of songs that took some time to grow on me, so I didn't love them immediately. But like I said, I've been playing the album on repeat for weeks since it's come out. So these songs took some time to grow on me, but I do like them quite a bit now. That would be Alligator Tears, Flamenco, Ya Ya. What else? Bodyguard, Hands to Heaven, and Tyrant. So those took some time to grow on me, but I actually really like them. So there's a couple that I just really don't vibe with, and having listened to the album several times through, I still don't vibe with them. And that would be Daughter, Spaghetti, Sweet Honey Buckin'. Those aren't my faves. There's also like a couple songs in here, which I guess I'm not sure to put them in the song category. Like Bodyguard is only like a minute long, so I don't know if that's considered a song. So is Louisiana. Oh, Louisiana. So that's only like a minute long, but I'm going to put them in the song category because they're not like, when you listen to the intermissions that I mentioned, like Dolly P is one of them. That's basically just Dolly Parton saying a little something. That's not a song, whereas like Bodyguard is an actual song. So I guess if I had to kind of whittle it down, I'd say I like 75 to 80% of the album, which to me is good. I feel like liking an entire album, like every single song on an album, for me, that's a really hard thing to do for an artist, because the more tracks that you have, the more chance that I might not like a few of them. And this album has a lot of songs on it. And so for me, like, there's very few times where I listen to an album from an artist and I'm like, every single song can get it. Every single song is fire. And even though I love Renaissance, there's still like 2 or 3 songs that aren't my favorite on that one. But every now and again, an artist will release an album and I do love every single track on there. But it's okay. For me, I feel like it's perfectly reasonable to listen to an album and not love the entire album, to just love like most of it. And that's kind of where I am with this. If I'm comparing, if I'm comparing it to Renaissance in terms of like which one is my favorite, I do think I vibe with Renaissance more, but they're very different vibes. Like, Renaissance is very much a dance album, whereas this one, because country can be a lot of different things, it can be upbeat, it can be somber, it can be melancholy, it can be relaxing. I feel like we play on a lot of those things in this album. So for me, this album has more of like a relaxing kind of vibe. Like, I would listen to this while I'm outside watching the sunset, whereas I'd be listening to Renaissance where I'm doing chores. You know what I mean? Like, they have a different vibe. So I like them both for like different reasons. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on Cowboy Carter. I thought it was a fun album, and like I said, I liked most of it. And I heard she's doing an Act 3. So I guess we'll see what that is. Some people have prophesized it's her going into rock. Who knows? I feel like it's such an interesting thing for Beyonce or any artist like this, because I heard when I looked on social media that she recorded these years ago. And when you listen to 16 Carriages, she says it's been 38 summers. So she would have been 38 at the time that she recorded that, even though she's like 42 now. So it's just wild to put in that work and that commitment to making something years and years in advance before like the audience hears it. So I think that's such an interesting thing as an artist, to put in like that much work ahead of time. I have no idea what Act 3 was going to be, and none of us will until Beyonce is ready to launch it. What I would love is, I would love to see all of the original members of Destiny's Child come back and do an album. That would be really great. My favorite album from Destiny's Child is Destiny Fulfilled, and that's because it felt more collaborative between the three of them, where not just Beyonce was singing lead. And I like all of their voices together. So that's always been my favorite album from them. And so it's also a really good album, but it's really good to hear other people sing lead and to hear the voices harmonize too. Anyway, but yeah, that's what I would want from Act 3. I would just love to hear all the original members of Destiny's Child come back and do new music. That would be fun. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know. Beyonce knows. We don't know. Have you listened to Cowboy Carter? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below. You can check me out on all my socials, which are in the descriptions. Well, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you later. Bye.